Welcome to Monoreel Radio Dockside Chat number 36. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are coming to you live from Dockside Margaritas here at Disney Springs. It is a picturesque evening. The sun is setting behind the volcano at the Rainforest Cafe. This is quite literally the calm before the storm. It is after spring break. It is before the kids are out of school, certainly a couple of weeks before Memorial Day weekend, about a week actually. So it's calm. And I know that because we were able to park in Lime Garage tonight.
Yeah, we really hit the sweet spot tonight. Some of it intentional, some not. We did have intentions of coming to dinner this evening. More on that later. But it's been a minute since we've been here to take in a sunset like this. We've really been trying to take advantage of the cooler weather, and not just for recording Dockside chats, but, you know, just hitting the parks during the day while the weather is still in our favor. That way we can be at home with the pup by nightfall. But it's been a minute since we've had this gorgeous view here, and I forgot how much I miss coming here just to chill and take in a sunset. The other thing that's working in our favor too, which was unintentional, daylight savings time. You know, It is dark, at least, you know, by our house. We get sunlight until like 8:30 at this time of year. But this is really nice. We really lucked out crowd-wise. It's a Monday night, to your point, calm before the storm, so it's very empty. And weather-wise, this is the nicest it's going to be for a while. It's been
probably until October.
Yeah, it's been holding in the 90s around here already, and you can feel that humidity, but this is one of those rare evenings where the humidity is broken and we can just sit outside and it's nice.
Yes. Well, with all of that being said, we have an awful lot to talk about tonight, but first, before we do that, let's talk about our margaritas, because you are having what we've been calling the seasonal margarita for a few months now, and it continues to be the seasonal margarita.
My favorite, the Chipotle pineapple. I mean, look, I'm not complaining because I love this one, but like, can we make up our minds, Dockside? Can you stop teasing me? Can we just make this a mainstay on the menu at this point and then maybe get a different rotation? Because I've been 5 months strong with this one, except for Patty's Day when they did the whiskey one.
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise.
So I'm not sorry to continue to drink it, but what are we doing?
I don't know. Drinking it and enjoying it. I have the Añejo Select. So cheers.
Cheers.
So refreshing.
Yeah. So let's launch into this foodie-themed Dockside chat. That was unintentional, but
yeah. Very unintentional.
We are where we are.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Hidden Mickey Supply Co. Products include Disney and Pixar-inspired 3D straw charms, ornaments, and personalized photo nightlights. Listeners of Monoreel Radio can get a 10% discount using the code Monoreel10 at checkout. Visit Hidden Mickey Supply Co. on Instagram and Etsy to stay up to date on all of the new releases.
All right, let's talk about what we are currently watching. And what we're watching is what everybody is watching right now. And you're not watching it at home. You are going to the movie theaters, thank God. But let's talk, no spoilers, let's talk about Thunderbolts.
I loved it so much. It was everything that I wanted it to be. It was such a fun theater-going experience. I've not felt that much excitement since, I don't want to say since Endgame, because I think that with all of the cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine, it was able to capture a little bit of that excitement and that hype. But I just absolutely love this through and through. I love every single choice that they made. I love the characters that are paving the way for the new Avengers. Some of them, you know, obviously we've seen the trailers. We know who's back in, but I thought it was so smart. The ones that they picked, like Ghost, who you think is a one-off in Ant-Man, and they make her a fully fledged character. I love that they did that. Or, you know, Wyatt, who was Captain America for 2 seconds. You know, I like that they're giving him a full arc. Like, I really, and of course, I mean, you know, we've been singing the praises of Yelena and the Red Guardian. It was great seeing them really take the lead in this one. But I loved it through and through. I loved the story. Really smart choices. And one of the things that I enjoyed the most about it, other than the necessary CGI that they needed to pull off the villain, it was a tried and true, in-camera, gritty movie.
Yes.
Well done, Marvel.
I will go on record as saying that David Harbour is the best thing to happen to the MCU since Ryan Reynolds.
Wow.
I believe that to be true. To the point where I was tempted to sign up and start paying for Netflix again just so that we could watch Stranger Things over again. That's how excited I was after watching this movie. The cast was phenomenal. The film was a stupid amount of fun. Great soundtrack. But he's so good, and it gets me excited for this true next phase of the MCU. I think the MCU was kind of lost for a little while.
Lost in the multiverse, I think that's fair.
But I think that where they are right now, with the characters that they've selected to move forward with, I think that this is the dawn of a golden age, perhaps even, of the MCU.
Also, well done having to pivot from the Kang debacle.
Yes.
It's kind of like nobody's even going to notice at this point.
Not at this point.
So, yeah, really, really smart choices were made. Shall we get into what we've been up to around town? Dialing it all the way back to our last Dockside chat, we got to do something really fun after we were finished recording. Yes, we did go to Raglan Road. Yes, we did take the Dalkey Duo home with us, but that's not what I'm talking about. We got to do a test run for our friends at Where in the Park. They released, at that point were releasing a new digital game for Disney Springs. And they let us beta test it to make sure that nothing was being blocked, nothing, seasonally when they put the Christmas decorations and things like that out, that you're still going to be able to see it or nothing is changing. So it was really fun to sort of get into the mindset of being able to put the game together.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun with it because for as often as we're here, this is why they asked us to do it, because they know that we're here all of the time. It's a rare occasion that we can kind of stop and smell the roses. So I was happy to, do exactly what the game is designed to do and notice more of the little details. But there was one that truly stumped us. And we thought for sure we knew where it was. And then we had to adjust.
But we were able to complete the game. And it was a great success, a lot of fun. And I think that Disney Springs is one of those places that you come and there's so many great hidden gems and things to notice that I like that it kept your head on a swivel. Speaking of which, we didn't mention this last time we were here. They've refinished the floors here at Dockside Margaritas.
I almost forgot again. Yes, we meant to bring this up the last time because you pointed out that everything looked wet.
Yeah.
And it hadn't rained. And same thing, we're in a little bit of a dry spell here. It still has that wet-looking sheen about it, but that's because they refinished
They top-coated it, and, well, it looks good, though, at any rate. We had a really good time, and I did some shopping that day at a store I'd never been to before over at Uniqlo. I needed a new pair of golf shorts, and I would have just as happily gone to a local golf shop or, sporting goods store, but everybody kept talking about how Uniqlo was not only a quality product, but it was also fairly affordable, kind on the wallet. So I decided to go in and take a look, and I got the exact pair of golf shorts I wanted for $39. And I thought, for a pair of golf shorts, had I gotten them at one of the big sporting goods stores, I probably would have been paying close to $60 for it. But there is something for everybody in that store. That store is an extraordinarily well-oiled machine. And it's definitely a place that I can see myself doing some more shopping in. So I understand the hype of Uniqlo.
I, too, did some shopping. And I am happy to report that I did find my Goofy movie merch. I was able to snag the Spirit jersey. We were able to snag a Powerline hat for our friend, which we shipped up to Connecticut for her. She was very happy. But yeah, it was very, very low inventory by the time we got over there.
I got one of the last 2 magic bands that they had on premises.
It's really cool looking.
It's
though.
a good looking magic band.
I'm not into the magic bands. Like, I still have mine from, trips from 2013, and I just use those when I need to scan in, and then it goes right back into my bag. I don't find them comfortable to wear in the parks. Wow, I sound like such a snobby local now because I couldn't wait to wear them around on our vacations. But it's just, especially this time of year, it's just too hot. I don't want it on. I don't wear jewelry to the parks. Like, it's just too hot and uncomfortable. So anyway, I'm not one for the magic bands. But if I were to buy one, that would have been it because it's just that cool. I love the color palette. Like, they nailed everything about it, that whole line.
Well, I got to use my brand new magic band. But a few short days later, when we went to EPCOT for the International Flower and Garden Festival.
Yes, because prior to that, we had been there after you ran Springtime Surprise. We were there specifically for Sugar Ray, and we really didn't get to do any of the festival booths. So this was like a tried and true dedicated festival day, and we decided to bring you along with us.
We are enjoying the conclusion of our day here at EPCOT, celebrating the 30th International Flower and Garden Festival, and you said to me, as we were sitting down just now, that you were surprised how much ground we were able to cover today.
This was one of those days where it was like, we came, we saw, we conquered. We knew coming in the booths that we wanted to try because there were so many new offerings this year, and we were able to pull it off where we were able to hit every single thing that we wanted. So we were with some friends today, so we didn't record live in the moment because that can get obnoxious. But as we're winding down, we're ready to head out to the car. We're just finishing up some beers, so we figured we would recap our day before we forget anything.
Yeah, so actually what we are enjoying as we sit here at Communicore Plaza is the beer flight. So 3 different beers in this flight: the Omegang Melon Falls Watermelon Kolsch, the Orange Blossom Brewing Company Starlight Papaya Pilsner, and the Southern Tier Strawberry Shortcake Imperial Ale. Now, what's of note here is it's Florida fresh. Only one of these breweries is in Florida. That would be the Orange Blossom. However, I believe all of the flavors that they are incorporating, the melon and the strawberry, specifically for Omegang, which is up in Cooperstown, New York, and Southern Tier, which is in Lakewood, New York, that is sourced fruit from Florida. So it was, when we got up there, we weren't planning on getting a flight.
We came specifically for 2 of the food offerings and the Strawberry Shortcake Imperial Ale from Southern Tier. And then as I was looking over the menu, I was like, oh wait, the watermelon one from Cooperstown. Oh wait, the papaya. And then I noticed it said beer flight. So, I mean, that's Disney magic. What can I say? And
worth noting, the beer flight is only 50 cents more than getting the 12 ounce of any individual beer. So for an extra 50 cents, you get all 3 of them. Let's try the Omegang, the Watermelon Falls Watermelon Kolsch. Let's give this one a try first.
Cheers.
Cheers. Ooh.
Oh my, that's nice.
That's
really nice.
So light, so refreshing.
On first sip, it really tastes like a blonde ale, but you get that watermelon punch on the back end. That's as strong as like a Jolly Rancher.
That's what it tastes like to me.
I don't know that I've ever had a fruit-flavored beer that is like that powerful. It's like Leinenkugel, but if the watermelon was the more prominent flavor.
It's really, really good. Especially now the weather is getting warmer this time of year in Florida, so to have something that's just like, because watermelon, like you think about summertime, watermelon is just like nice cold slice of watermelon is so refreshing. Like that's very much what I'm getting here. Like this is very much a summertime beer.
I love that. Like honestly, if I see that in a store, I'm grabbing.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Orange Blossom Brewing Company. This is the Starlight Papaya Pilsner. Cheers.
Cheers.
They certainly did wedge them into these cartons quite aggressively.
Well, you know what? Considering that we had to walk with this plus the food, I appreciate that they're wedged in because I thought the wind was going to take it.
This one, it's good. The papaya, something here doesn't work. Something here tastes like a rubber band.
Oh.
And I like papaya.
I don't think so at all. I like that. I just don't think the flavors are strong. Like, it doesn't taste like a pog juice or when you do the mimosa with the papaya.
Right.
I like it, though.
It's not doing it for me. All right.
Not as good as the watermelon, but I do like that.
Let's go to the Southern Tier. God knows we both love Southern Tier. Strawberry Shortcake Imperial Ale.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's like a Dockside chat on steroids.
You can smell the watermelon before you even taste it.
This is strawberry.
What did I say? Watermelon? I meant strawberry.
The Southern Tier is the strawberry shortcake.
But you just get strawberry on the nose.
And on the tongue. Zoinks. Wow. That's strong. See, that is almost like Tuscany strong to me.
See, and I knew what to expect with an Imperial. I like that a lot.
I have had this before. Because I remember thinking that same thing is like, wow, that sounds good, and you think it's going to be strawberry blonde, but it does pack a punch.
I mean, of the three of them, the Omegang, I think, is my favorite.
The watermelon for sure.
All right.
I don't dislike the other two. One is just very strong. One is strong. It's like the Three Bears here. One got it just right.
All right, let's talk about the food. Starting with the Cubanito, which is a mojo marinated pork belly, ham, Swiss cheese, pickles, and stone ground mustard sauce. This is all you.
So, I mean, listeners, you know this. If you've been listening to us for a while, I love my Cubans. I get them everywhere. We did an entire Dockside chat during Flavors of Florida dedicated to sampling. That might have been my favorite Dockside chat ever. I was all excited because I thought this might be a different twist on a Cubano with the pork belly. But it's the same as what you would normally get with the pork. That's not to say that it was bad. It was delicious. And the stone ground mustard sauce was a very nice touch because it almost gave like a salty coating to the top of the bread. I liked that. But there was nothing really that made this stand out above and beyond any other Cuban that I've had on property. And if I had to rank them right now, holding strong in the lead is still going to be Chef Art. They have the best Cuban sandwich, followed very closely in second place by the Ybor dog at BB Wolf's.
I had the Florida strawberry shortcake, vanilla pound cake, macerated strawberry sauce, and whipped cream. This was absolutely delicious. The strawberries were so fresh. They were so juicy, so flavorful. And the pound cake was absolutely phenomenal. It was nice and moist. Sometimes when you have something like this that's made en masse, that's sitting in a refrigerator just waiting to be pulled out, specifically with cake, they can be a little dry, they can be a little stale. Not the case with this. This tasted bakery fresh.
You could see it when you put that fork in it. It was like cutting into a pillow.
It was absolutely outstanding.
Worth noting that prior to sitting down with those menu items, we were in Germany. Yes, Sean got a pretzel.
Yes. Let's talk about beach grub. So here's what I'm doing. I'm just flipping through the pass book here, going in order of the pass book, not necessarily the order in which we tasted things.
But it's almost like we're working backwards, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so beach grub and yacht grub were my two biggest things that I was excited to try this fest. But I was curious because I was like, I don't really feel like doing a seafood bake. I feel like it's going to be too hot for that. the grilled street corn on the cob, I know that was such a thing at Animal Kingdom for a while. I don't like corn on the cob on the go. I feel like it's too messy. If I'm ever going to eat corn, it's either off the cob or I need to be at home when I can floss my teeth immediately after eating. So I wasn't too keen on some of the food offerings. I was more about yacht grub with the trio of dips and chips. But with all that being said, so beach grub and yacht grub, I think worth noting, they are close to Journey into Imagination on the bridge side as you're walking into World Showcase. And I think that's worth mentioning because those areas are not very shady, no matter what time of day it is. So my biggest concern was, how do these things hold up in the heat? And that was why I didn't want to try the seafood bake. You got the s'mores bar, and I tried a little bit of it. Holy cow.
It's one of the best desserts I've ever eaten in my life. So it's a fudge brownie covered in melted dark chocolate with toasted meringue and smoked, this was the key, smoked graham cracker. This thing tasted like summer as a kid, making s'mores by the campfire. The brownie was decadent. The snack itself was nice and cool and refreshing. I absolutely loved this item.
For me, the toasted meringue was the key because a marshmallow would have put that over the top and made it too sweet. This is where you put a fun adult twist on a kid's snack and you elevate it. That's something I hope to see at Festival Favorites year round.
Yeah.
Because that's such a good, we had a table, so we did cut into it so we could share it. But that's something, next time I would get my own and just eat it right off the stick. It was unbelievable. I was not expecting to enjoy that as much as I did. And we destroyed it before it melted, so that was nice too.
Yeah.
What we did not destroy before it melted was the trio of dips and chips. So that was kettle cooked chips, which were nice, a caramelized onion dip, whipped feta dip, and pimento cheese. And caviar topped the onion dip. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. You had about 90 seconds to eat it before they started melting all over the place and it becoming kind of a sloppy snack. The flavors were great. The flavors were all there. But if I had to do it all over again, I would make sure I got myself to the shade with one of these bad boys.
I think it's also noteworthy that you need to bring your own chips if you want to really enjoy it, because you get a very healthy portion of dip. I'll give them that. It's a lot of dip. You don't get nearly enough chips for the dips.
So you had tasted some of them, but you're not the biggest feta fan. If we had split this even because you wanted to actually eat and split the snack, we would have ran out of chips immediately. Because we didn't, I was able to double dip and finish off the dips, but otherwise I'd suggest getting your own.
Yeah. I thought the onion dip was good. I don't like feta. I don't like pimento cheese. I tried the feta. It wasn't for me, and I skipped the pimento.
What they're not saying about the feta is that they do put dill in it. Because feta is already strong on its own, but they did have the dill in there already. Onion dip, though, was some of the best I've ever had, with the nice caramelized pieces of onions in there. Because usually when you do onion dip, you do an onion powder, or you get the packet of seasoning, like a packet of ranch, or you get a packet of onion seasoning with the ranch in it. This was nice actually having the pieces of onion.
Flipping through here. Where is it? Oh, here we go. The citrus blossom. This is over in the Odyssey, and the orange sesame tempura shrimp be calling my name. And it did not disappoint. And I have said this on the show before. If you are going to get this item, do yourself a favor. Ask for the sauce on the side. Because if you don't, they're going to drown the shrimp in sauce. Now, this accomplishes two things. Number one, it drowns the shrimp in sauce. So all you're going to taste is sauce. The other thing is it takes that beautiful fried tempura shrimp and makes it soggy. Use it as a dipping sauce. It's a great hack, and it is a perfect snack to enjoy if you want to get into the air conditioning for 15 minutes.
We did for more than 15, and we beat the heat of the day, which was lovely.
Yeah.
We also got the citrus baked brie, which came with an orange lemon marmalade, limoncello macerated blueberries, and a spiced Marcona almonds. I loved this. I thought it was going to be more like a dip situation, but what it does not say on the menu is that they baked the brie in like a puff pastry.
Well, that's typical of baked brie, but they did it like all of the accoutrement that you think is already going to be incorporated in. It's more like a topping on the baked brie. But with that said, if you're not a fan of baked brie, I don't love brie all of the time. This was a very mild brie, so I think that this was very approachable for people that maybe have a more sensitive palate and don't care for those flavors.
Well, that's the thing. I think the other flavors, not that they overpowered it, they just complemented it so nicely. It was just a really nice bite overall. And the puff pastry, considering how much was on top of it, it still had a crisp to it. I thought that was a really great dish. So we essentially did work backwards because we started out at BrunchCot, which was not on our list because, I'm sorry, avocado toast, we can get that anywhere. Shrimp and grits, same thing. Like, we live in Florida. You get great shrimp and grits anywhere. Chef Art has the best. The biscuits and gravy, that comes with a pepper jelly. We know you're not going to eat that. And I had completely overlooked, admittedly, the fried cinnamon roll bites, which are served with cream cheese frosting and candied bacon, and I was not expecting this presentation.
It was absolutely phenomenal. And what they don't say, which they should, quite honestly, is that they're basically like a churro, but the inside is filled with like a cinnamon, I don't want to call it a cinnamon jam, but I'll call it like a cinnamon...
It's what you'd put in a cinnamon roll, but that's the misleading thing, right? Like when you go to Cinnabon, it's just a smaller bun when you get a mini. It was like a filled beignet. So instead of rolling the cinnamon spread out on a pastry dough and then rolling it all together, they infuse this beignet type of dough with the cinnamon and then drizzle the frosting all over it and then sprinkle the bacon on. Out of this world. I mean, I was going to ask you what you thought the best dish was that we tried today, but I think there's a clear winner here.
Yeah, it's the cinnamon roll bites. And noteworthy, we did drink the Three Daughters Brewing Coffee Blonde Ale, which I thought was a nice option to have over at BrunchCot. Easy drinking. I really enjoyed it. More times than not, if you're going to have a coffee beer, you don't expect it to be a blonde ale. So on a warm day, I think that it's super approachable, and it's not one that you would be afraid to drink thinking it's going to be too heavy, because it's quite light for something that has coffee.
If I'm not mistaken, they also had that at Universal at Horror Nights this year. I remember it was a Three Daughters offering. I'm 90% sure it was the coffee, but I remember getting it several times and I loved it. So I was happy to see that over here. I always love that beer.
I'm glad that we brought the recorder with us, by the way, that day, because we had debated it. We decided, I think as we were walking out the door, to grab it, because I didn't anticipate, neither did you, that this was going to be such the foodie episode of the show. And I don't think that there's any way that we could have remembered exactly everything that we ate that day now that we've been to a few more restaurants.
Exactly, especially because we do have 2 restaurant reviews in the queue.
Yeah.
It was nice to be able to do that in the moment. I'm sure it's going to sound better to the listeners too.
Oh, sure.
That we had all of those descriptors right off the top of our head, because now the 2 restaurant reviews, one of them is a recall from, well, it was only 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And the other one, let's just say mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made.
Because as much as I love our listeners, it was a struggle getting over here after the meal that we just had. But we're going to put a pin in that. I want to talk about the perfect storm that led us to being able to go to Toledo for the first time.
Yes.
So this is sort of Disney adjacent, but listeners will understand where I am coming from. So I am currently on a break from work. I just wrapped up my show on Friday, and as I said earlier, it is now Monday night. So I'm planning a trip home to New York, and I had plans, not just plans, I had tickets to go and see Idina Menzel in Redwood. I have almost a perfect run of seeing her in all of her original Broadway cast performances except for Rent. I have even seen, obviously you took me to see If Then, where we met her. I had seen her in Wicked twice because she was so phenomenal. I even went with our dear friend Christina Kay to see her in a Broadway show that was not a musical. We went to just go hear her talk, not even sing. So it goes without saying, Christina and I were all in for Redwood. She waited until I was going to be home. She waited for me to see it with me. And we had tickets for Saturday, May 24th. It's one of those moments where I wish I was able to see the look on my own face when I received the email saying that Redwood was closing on May 18th, so my tickets were going to get fully refunded. Whilst I appreciate getting my money back, I was stunned, to say the least. I couldn't believe it. I was like a week. And, I scrambled to try and get back to New York the week prior. And then as it turned out, I was supposed to wrap a week earlier on May 9th. They extended me another week, so there was just no way that I could pull it off. And also, in all fairness, I think that the reason the show was closing was because of the ticket pricing. I understand that we have to cover Idina Menzel's salary for her to swing from a tree 8 nights a week, or 8 shows a week, I should say. But the pricing was not moderate. It was priced for stunt casting. The cheapest tickets were starting at $100, and it's just like, you can't do that to people. So on principle, even if I was able to get up there for the last weekend, they were gouging the tickets for like $300 for her final performance. So that was kind of off-putting. I was a tad disappointed that I was not able to go. Not even so much for seeing her, but because I wanted that experience with Christina.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will fanzel at some other opportunity. But it did pave the way for me to be here when our dear friends Mike, Nicole, and Damien, who listeners you've all heard on a prior Dockside chat when we did our Cuban comparisons throughout
Yes.
Disney Springs, they were in town because it was their final day with their annual pass. So they wanted to run it out, and they wanted to do a nice dinner, so they invited us to go to Toledo with them. And it was perfect for us because I can't even tell you how many times that has been on our to-do list. And 9 times out of 10 when we go to Coronado, it's because we're at Three Bridges. Or for some reason or another, something else comes up, and we've just never made it over there. But worth the wait is an understatement.
It was phenomenal. We were able to enjoy the property for a little bit before we went up for dinner, which Coronado is one of our favorite properties just to walk. It's picturesque, it's peaceful.
She is stunning.
And we were able to check in for our reservation and walk over to Dahlia Lounge, and we went outside, to get a beautiful view of the parks, because you can get one from up there. And no sooner did we get out there, but our table was ready. And so it was a short-lived view, but they did have our table ready very quickly, so we didn't have to wait very long, which was very nice.
I think it's also worth noting, while we haven't eaten at Toledo, you and I have been up to Dahlia before.
Yes.
This was Mike, Nicole, and Damien's first time going up and seeing this view.
Yeah.
And to be there to witness that, and like, I wish I had my camera rolling at that point, but like, it was nice to just take in the moment of them seeing this for the first time. Because we hit it, again, perfect timing. You know, the sun is starting to go down. It was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous. And the view from our table was even better, because we had never been, obviously, inside the restaurant where you're seeing the other resort side, where you're seeing the lake and the Three Bridges restaurant. And
we had a pleasant surprise by our window. Looking out in the distance, we could see Magic Kingdom. But enough about the view, and enough about how just stunning that restaurant is. It's very open. It's kind of plain, but in all of the ways that it's aesthetically pleasing. I don't believe it's over the top decorated. I don't think that it has that wow factor that, like, I think Citrico's, for example, has a little bit more of a pop than Toledo does. But I think because Toledo has those floor-to-ceiling windows with the phenomenal views, I mean, that's really all it needs.
You don't want to take away from it. I disagree. I don't think that it's plain, but I do think it's understated in all of the right ways, considering that the premise of that restaurant and this tower is Disney's short film with Dali. So I think that they could have gone over the top with the art, and I like that they showed some restraint in that. But I really liked the decor. I like that they had trees indoors. It kind of, and that really lends to having the windows. It does very much feel like outside in. And
yeah.
I mean outside in. I don't mean that you feel like you're in a tree house. Don't misunderstand.
Right.
But yeah, I think anymore it would feel too busy, and you don't want to distract from those phenomenal views. It's gorgeous, especially because that one window is, you know, strategically facing the sunset every day. So it's, you know, it's just gorgeous. It was lovely. And as if that's not enough, the food and service, outstanding.
Yeah, our server was phenomenal. He had a great knowledge of the menu. Which I know might sound like a silly thing to compliment somebody on, but you'd be surprised how many people really don't have much of a menu knowledge, the restaurants that they work in. He was fantastic, and the quality of the food. I was surprised there wasn't a lot of diversity on our table. You know, it's not.
It was the chicken table.
It was the chicken table. The chicken with one pork chop.
Knowing that we were going to get that chicken.
That Rioja braised chicken. It was one of the best pieces of chicken I've ever had. It was tender, it was flavorful. The skin was crispy. The sauce was excellent.
The rice was great.
Rice was really nicely flavored. But the star side was the one that you and I split. And that was the crispy Brussels sprouts.
They were excellent. I'm not going to say best on property, but they were great. Also worth noting about the chicken for me, I'm not a dark meat person, but they give you the light meat on the bone, and then they had the dark meat, which was marinated.
They said with crispy chorizo, but I didn't catch any chorizo. It might have been like a chorizo broth, but it was very, very good.
That was the star of the dish for me, and I don't usually go for the dark meat, but I thought it was phenomenal. It was so good. But those Brussels sprouts, they were great. And it was just enough food. Oh, I'm almost forgetting. It was just enough because we had room for dessert, which we don't typically do. That, I would say, is the star of the show.
So they have, it's basically an orange creme brulee. I will butcher the name if I say it, but it is an orange creme brulee with like a toasted chocolate crust, almost like a chocolate wafer toasted. It was light. It was refreshing. I wish that it would have been a little bit more firm. From a creme brulee, creme brulee, it's custard, it's not pudding, but I think it needed to be a little bit more firm. It was
very light.
Yeah. That would be my only criticism of it, but that said, it was delicious, and I would absolutely have it again.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. And I also got a coffee with condensed milk. That was phenomenal. Well, not a coffee. It was an espresso with the condensed milk. Absolutely delicious. No, you and I really haven't done a dessert here, unless we're going to like a Gideon's or to go get a specific like cookies or ice cream or something like that. It is a very rare occasion where you and I will save room for dessert.
Right.
Honestly, I can't even remember the last time that we did cap off a meal with dessert.
I couldn't tell you. Maybe on a cruise. Probably on the cruise.
On the cruise, yeah. And prior to that, it might even be dating back to like a vacation. No, it might have been Grand Californian.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Grand Californian, listen to me. The California Girl. Sorry, Disneyland is on the brain because it's the 70th this weekend. I think it might have been California Girl.
And that was, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago?
It was a while ago. There are probably listeners that know better than we do that would be able to pinpoint the last Dockside chat that we had a dessert. But point being, if you go to Toledo, and you should,
yes,
save room for it.
Yeah, I think Toledo is definitely going to be one that's in rotation for us, especially if you want to have a reasonably priced meal at a Disney resort with the wow factor. The wow factor being that the quality of the food is very good, Dahlia Lounge is great, and the views are phenomenal. I think that would be something that you would want to add on to your list.
Honestly, next time we go back to Coronado, I would probably do that over Three Bridges. And Three Bridges was my favorite.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 birthdays that I have been down here so far were spent at Three Bridges because I love the vibe and I love the food. The food matched the vibe. Except for that last birthday.
Yeah.
None of us were really happy with it. The consistency wasn't there, and since then, I have heard very hit or miss things. It's great for a cocktail, even though they have taken away so much of the lounge seating, which is kind of disappointing. It's almost all tables now instead of like those lovely couches. So if we were to go back, I think it would be specifically to go to Toledo. That would honestly be like my birthday meal of choice.
Well, I can tell you what my birthday meal of choice would be, except it won't be there. And that's the restaurant that we ate in tonight, and this is where mistakes were made.
We honestly were not planning to be so food heavy this time around. And we normally don't eat like this, but as I said, I am going back up. We know that the restaurant is closing. And I feel like Shula's has just been such a staple. Like when I think about you listening to Lou talk about what it's like to be a local, like that was the thought in my head. And I was like, we have to go. We have to try this.
Yeah. But, hey, 25 years is a great run. And after 25 years, it's not uncommon that the restaurant and the hotel wanted to go in different directions. And that happens from time to time. But I'll tell you, having never been there before, and I have no gauge, so I can't say with absolute certainty, but I'm going to say it with absolute certainty. They've not skimped or given up on the quality or the experience, knowing that they're closing in 3 weeks. And I think that it is important to note that the staff is staying on. It's going to be, they said, a month downtime, and it will reopen as Bourbon Steak.
Bourbon Steak. They're a Nashville restaurant. So they are keeping a couple of things on the menu. Good God, I hope the bread service. You will be seeing your favorite bartenders there again. Yeah, and as it is our understanding that most of the staff is going to stay, which I was very happy to hear.
Yes.
Because everything was so good. The food was great. The service was excellent. Like, that would have ruined the meal knowing that all of these people were going to be out of a job. But it'll be downtime for a month, and then they'll be back up. I do think, the decor was lovely.
Sure was.
But I feel like the restaurant trend now is more in line with like a Citricos, where it's very light and bright and airy. More specifically, you see that when they did the reno at Victoria and Albert's. It was, like when we went, it was 2017. It was low lighting. I really liked the decor in there. And now I think it looks it looks a little like fancy catering hall to me. It's so light in there. So I can see them doing something similar. I liked it though. Like, to me, when I think of Steakhouse, I liked the current decor. I like the hardwood. Yeah, exactly.
That's what it should be. And call me biased, but as a Dolphins fan, seeing all of the huge pictures and portraits on the wall, and I'm not surprised. Don Shula passed away a couple of years ago, and it's not a surprise that everybody is moving in their own direction. You may see Shula's in another form. Well, they have Shula's 347 in Orlando. It was explained to us, but
there's one in Naples, and the Chicago location is still there.
Yeah, but we're not going to Chicago or Naples anytime soon. We can go to Orlando anytime we want.
Yeah.
So maybe Shula's 347 is something we check out, and perhaps you will see Shula's reborn at another place in Orlando. That wouldn't surprise anybody, I think, given how popular and how highly regarded they are. But with that said, the food, yes, the bread was some of the best bread I've ever had. It was crusty and light and airy, and just, it was like eating a puff pastry.
Like doughy on the inside, because I like my bread a little under. I'm weird like that. It was doughy on the inside, crusty and flaky on the outside. Like pillow light, screaming hot when they brought it out, so the butter just melted all over it. It was so good. We had seconds when they were offered, which is where the first mistake was made. So you knew coming in that you were getting the prime rib. Sean, I don't know that we've talked about this on the show. Sean is a prime rib connoisseur. If there's prime rib on the menu, he's getting it. No questions asked. And I went seafood. I got the salmon. I think it's worth noting, having never been there, we said let's get some sides. Just because I didn't want to get over to Disney Springs and then be like, you know what, I want another nosh. We'll come, I just wanted to come and record. I didn't want to be like at the end of the night, oh, let's go to Gideon's or whatever. I wanted to leave full. Be careful what you wish for. We were a little hesitant on the sides because I think most of them were $15. I think it was $15 across the board. So for mac and cheese, for some of them, I was like, okay, that's reasonable, but like $15 for Brussels sprouts, $15 for a baked potato, we were kind of hesitant to do it, but then we ended up doing it, which was another mistake because, well, not for me, because I was surprised when they brought the salmon out. It was tiny. I'm not going to lie. They gave you a choice of either a beurre blanc or a hollandaise sauce, so I went with the beurre blanc, and I have paid less for bigger pieces of salmon. It was thick, thick like a piece of chicken, but it was just a teeny tiny little square. It was like, I would say like a thick brownie size.
You were probably I would have said that was a 5 to 6 ounce piece of fish.
So I was very happy that I ordered a side, not realizing that $15 worth of Brussels sprouts is going to get you a lot of Brussels sprouts. It was like a whole cast iron thing. They're charred, truffle oil, hot honey. These are, in fact, the best Brussels sprouts on property. Not best I've ever had. That title goes, if you are on Long Island, go to the Northport Hotel. Their Brussels sprouts are worth the trip, I promise you. But these are a very close second. Easily the best on property for me.
And I got, as you teased, the prime rib. And most restaurants you go to and you get a prime rib and it's a 10-ounce cut, a 12-ounce cut. And I went, okay, well, $58 for prime rib. It's because we're at the Swan and Dolphin, we're at Shula's, it's Disney, so you're paying a premium for it. Get the bring another bread basket over. It was so good. And I did get the baked potato. The baked potato was massive. It was the best baked potato I've ever had.
It was the size of your face.
It was tremendous. fully loaded with all the good stuff that my cardiologist would be thrilled that I had. But the prime rib, it was a 20-ounce cut of prime rib.
It looked like a tomahawk steak on your plate. It was ginormous.
It was massive. And it didn't have a ton of fat on it, which I appreciated. I mean, look, prime rib's a fatty cut. It's what it is. But sometimes you go to a place and you get the prime rib and half of it's fat and you don't eat it. No, not the case at Shula's. I hope that menu option stays on when the new ownership group takes over. I am so thrilled that we were able to enjoy our meal there. And at the same time, I'm very angry that we enjoyed our meal there so much because now I'm going to miss a restaurant I've been to once in my life. It was a place that had been on our radar for so long, so many birthdays. You would say, do you want to go to Shula's? And it would be, you know what? I would, but we can make plans with other people and we can go here. And that's what we would do. Or, do something that was more convenient. And no regrets about any of that. But I'm telling you right now, when you ask me what I want to do for my birthday this year, we're going to this place again, and we're gonna test, and we're gonna see if it holds up.
Well, that's why I'm not so busted up about it, because I am thankful that we will still get to go and have the experience all over again because the staff is still going to be there.
And they seem very excited about the change.
It's very positive. Nobody is being grumpy or complaining. They all seem very hyped on it. So this is a very positive thing. But yeah, I'm really glad that we got to try it before it closed. I think it's also worth noting, just because it was so funny what you said to me before we went, and this is where I was like, we got to walk from the parking garage of Disney Springs to Dockside Margaret. I was so full. I was borderline Thanksgiving full when we were leaving the Dolphin. And that's, by the way, if you're looking to go to the new restaurant, that's how you know where it is. Think Dolphin's owner, Shula's. That's not the Swan. It is in the Dolphin.
But he was the coach.
Yes.
But
sorry.
Yes. Easy way to remember it, though.
Yes, and also worth
Bill
noting...
Belichick's never going to break his record, and I'm happy about that.
Also worth noting, before I forget, because those are, even though they're on Disney property, not owned by Disney, you do have to pay for parking, but if you dine at any of the restaurants at the Swan and Dolphin, you can get it validated if you are driving in your own car. So
you just have to ask for the validation slip.
So anyway, I was, walking out of the restaurant wondering, God, how am I going to put two words together to record an episode after this? Because I'm just so full. And I needed to use the bathroom. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go. And Sean starts walking away from me. And he goes, okay, I'm just going to take a seat and slowly pass away. It was just so funny the way that you said that. But yeah, I mean, I legit had concerns for you. I was just so full.
This was the best prime rib I've ever had. This is, outside of Victoria and Albert's, this may have been the best dinner I've ever eaten on property here. I put it up there with Citricos.
But I agree with you, but easily one of the stupidest things we've ever done. And I don't just mean for Monoreel Radio, I mean in life.
Yeah, do that and then come here. You're welcome, folks.
I can't even get this margarita down. That's how.
Oh, I have
faith.
I am.
Well, I am going to with our next couple of talk topics.
Yeah, we got some.
We got some doozies.
Yeah. Remember, folks, there's a reason why sometimes we hold these talk topics until there's tequila on the table.
Yes, one of them we did tease, so you know it's coming. The other one is something that I have been wanting to discuss, and I hesitate to say, well, I don't want to be political, because we really try to be as diplomatic as possible and not to let our own personal beliefs bleed into the podcast. But there are no two ways around it. What I'm about to bring up is very political. So we're just going to talk about it. What I want to bring up is the announcement that President Trump is going to try to impose tariffs on U.S. films produced outside of the country. This was met with a lot of backlash, obviously. That's after the initial shock of it wore off. I do have a lot of thoughts on it. First of all, I will say, for as much as the industry was shocked, I personally was not surprised by this, because this is what his platform has been the entire time, is America first. So this is part of him doing exactly what he said he was going to do, with making sure that things are produced in the U.S. However, where I get a little bit hung up is that I don't think that we should be grouping film, and maybe this is me being biased a little bit, but I don't think that we should be grouping film in with things like cars. At the end of the day, yes, a movie is a product being put out by a studio, but there is a little bit of film that is also a service. So I don't think that we should just have this blanket statement. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't know that he knows enough about the film industry to be making a decision like that, especially when things have been so fragile since the pandemic, compounded with the strike, and now it's going to be yet another shakeup. So I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I think that short term, things are going to look okay on paper, in that the films being produced here are going to create a lot of jobs. And even when you think about things like Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, how much industry it created wherever she was performing, because they said it was like doing a Super Bowl every single night.
Every
just
night.
Because all of the hotels, the vendors, the restaurants, it's such a domino effect of all the surrounding areas that can contribute to the event that is going on. And I think
funding the public transit, people
Exactly.
taking subways and trains and buses.
And I think that people forget that, when a film is shooting somewhere, it does create a lot of jobs, and it does affect a lot of the immediate industry. So I think that is a positive thing. However, that is a short-term solution, and it's sort of a Band-Aid over a bullet wound, because this has been an ongoing problem with how fragile the industry is, and I don't think that long-term this is a viable solution, because of the impact that this is also going to have on the global box office. Now, part of this is that President Trump is also saying that this is in the name of national security, because foreign films are creating propaganda. I think that's kind of an excuse, and I think that you're pointing the finger at things that are not necessarily true, because film is a creative medium at its core. So I think that's sort of opportunistic as a reason behind it. But I think this is going to become very problematic when it comes to box office numbers, which we have just started to get back this year. And the theaters are still in so much trouble. That's what I worry for, is that if a film is produced entirely here, is it going to have an overseas market? Even, to its credit, Snow White tanked. It didn't do good overall, but it truly tanked in the U.S. Overseas, they actually, they didn't break even, but it wasn't as much of a total loss because of the international box office. And I think that's where, Trump may not be as well versed in this industry as he needs to be, to figure out the way forward. I personally think a lot of this too, it's the streamers that cause the problem. That's what we need to be looking at more than anything else. But maybe some good will come of this, because I've been saying for years, I think the less is more approach is important. I think the most important thing is to stop calling television and film content and putting out content, because you're just doing quantity over quality. I think that's what needs to be addressed first and foremost. And if you are doing less, you will get a bigger box office return because people are not going to be split in all of these different directions with having to pick and choose where they're spending their money. As far as the creative, that's where this does get a little dicey because you do have like these globe-trotting films like The Avengers. Even Thunderbolts just shot in Malaysia as well as the US. So I think, or like something like a Mission Impossible. For films like that, it's going to be very difficult, and I hate to see that the creative end of it will be penalized because you have to write to shoot here. Or on the other hand, you're going to have U.S. cities serving as looking like something like, look at how many films they shoot in England now over at Pinewood, and that has to serve for U.S. So there's going to be a little bit of give and take when it comes to the creative as well. But I think silver linings, for a lot of people that are fearful about it, you might get some really good quality films. Like, look at Sinners.
Yes.
That just came out. Sinners is such an American story. It's rooted in our history. It could have only been told here.
And I think they shot that in Georgia?
Either Georgia or Louisiana. But I'm glad you bring that point up too, because that's also a problem that needs fixing, where I don't feel that he has enough knowledge to address the root cause. A lot of the reasons that people are going to shoot overseas is because LA screwed the pooch as far as tax
what
incentives.
a disaster they are.
That's why you started losing the industry to places like Atlanta. To places like Louisiana. They're talking about bringing more film to Florida. Even, Jersey's making a run for it with sound stages now, too. You really needed to give better tax incentives to keep things in LA. That's where the problem starts. And that's where the industry is trying to get ahead of all of this, because before this tariff is imposed, the MPA met and they drafted a letter to appeal to Trump of what he could do for tax incentives to help on a federal level. And it was signed by all of the guild, the Directors Guild, the Producers Guild, the Writers Guild, SAG-AFTRA, IATSE, all of them are in support to try and get the films back to LA. But it's like, why did we lose them? Like, that's what's infuriating to me.
And why aren't they writing that letter to Gavin Newsom? Why are they writing it to the President of the United States?
Well, because things are so bad, it's a federal aid issue at this point.
Well, then it's an issue that Gavin Newsom created, and that's why these films left. The state of California needs to kind of look in the mirror and think about how they want to fix this. Now, I will agree with you. Trump's not a movie guy; he's a television guy. We know that. But I don't think he has the knowledge of film. Certainly not. The other thing is, I often wonder with some of these tariffs, how much of this is what he really wants, and how much of this is he's using this to get the thing he really wants.
Like a scare tactic.
Exactly. Because he'll do it. He's done it before.
It could be an empty threat. It could be. And that's where this is going to go back to the studios, because for the people that are saying how much this is going to hurt the creative, you can still write whatever it is that you want. It's just going to be a matter of, is a studio going to greenlight it? And if you are writing a globe-trotting film, can you find locations that can serve to look like other countries? That's how it won't hurt the creative. But there is something to be said for, Thunderbolts is a perfect example. They went and threw Florence Pugh off the second tallest building in the world. You have to go to Malaysia for that. There's going to be a lot of give and take with this. Obviously I'm going to keep my finger on the pulse of it as best I can. I'd feel a whole lot better if I found out I was renewed for next season when this was all happening. I really don't need another shakeup right now. But, I'll definitely be keeping an eye out. That's for sure.
And we'll see if it actually goes through. Now, my comment on that, in addition to what I said, is more about the films that are shot outside the United States, the international films. I'm assuming they're affected as well.
Absolutely.
Anything that's international and brought in. And there's two sides of this coin. the first side is, we got enough problems to worry about. This is so low priority, it doesn't matter, so let's fix everything else first. There is a part of me, though, that thinks if Disney doesn't release all of their films and television shows globally, because there are a lot of countries that do not wish to show specifically more contemporary, modern Disney films. Strange World is a great example of a really good film that suffered in the box office for a multitude of reasons, and a part of that was a lack of international box office.
Yeah.
Because there are countries that will refuse to show that movie because of the subject matter that was Strange World. There are countries that refused to show the last Star Wars film because of a same-sex kiss that lasted about a half a second on screen. So, if they're not willing to show Disney content that Disney wants to put out in the effort of being inclusive, why should we have to financially support their so-called art? With that said, I think that kind of transitions into the next hot-button topic, which is the massive announcement that is the new Disney park that is coming to Abu Dhabi. It has been met with enthusiasm and criticism very much at the same time.
Yeah, I would say backlash and support in equal measure.
Yeah.
Very polarizing.
From a positive perspective, here comes the rain. From a positive perspective, I think that technologically, this is going to be the most impressive Disney park that we've ever seen. Part of that is because it's not Disney's money that's going into it. So with an endless supply of money, there will be the John Hammond spare no expense.
Oh, God. Worked out really well for him, huh?
Yeah. But for Disney's perspective, it's an awful lot of money in their pocket. The licensing rights alone are through the roof. This is not unlike what they've done in the Asian markets, where it's not necessarily their money, but it's their characters, it's their IPs, it's their vision. And I think that it is going to expand Disney's global reach. It's going to make Disney more accessible for those who can't get on a plane for 18 hours and come to Walt Disney World, who can't go to Tokyo, who can't get to Paris. I think to have something closer to them, I think all in all is good for Disney as an overall brand.
In the words of Tony Stark, we're bringing the party to you.
Yeah, and I think that if you are concerned with helping spread the message that Disney has, that a lot of people do support, I think going into, let's call it what it is, sort of an it's a market that is probably not as friendly to Disney in the past. I think to get into that market and to bring those characters and bring those stories in, if it acts as a bridging of the gap, I think that can be a great thing.
That's the small part that I do agree with.
Where it comes with criticism, I look at this from the perspective of, it's like when the people who love golf criticized the players that went from the PGA Tour to the LIV Tour. Now, I'm not saying that United Emirates is the same thing as the Saudi Arabians, but they're not far off. That's not an opinion, it's a fact. In the Human Rights Index, they score almost equally, with the Saudis being below United Emirates. United Emirates is slightly ahead, but they're very much in the same, they fall in the same score range. And people have this moral compass when it comes to guys playing golf for the Saudis. Disney going into that market, I think the point is, it's great that you have a moral high ground, but at the end of the day, if it's business, and you're in the business of making money, much like these golfers took a lot of money for guaranteed contracts in addition to very large purses to win these live events, Disney made a decision that is rooted in business. And it's sometimes very hard. We've said it on the show many times. It's sometimes hard, I think, when you love Disney so much, to admit that, like, we all have these great memories coming here as kids and spending time with our families. But it continues to do this because ultimately they're in the business of making money. And I think that even those with the best of intentions sometimes do make difficult decisions, but when it benefits your shareholders, they make the decisions that's best for business.
Well, I think that is the part that's shocking to so many people, is that it does very much feel like Disney is selling out by doing this, because they chose the money over the morals. And for a company that does preach inclusivity all of the time, it does feel very fake, because you're not practicing what you preach by putting it in a place like this. But to your point, it is a business, and I think that that's what people are forgetting. It's just shocking to see that they showed their hand in this way. And I think for me, what was also pretty shocking was that this is the note that Bobby Iges wants to go out on. You know, he opened his park. He did his expansions. I was kind of surprised that this was the move that he wants as one of his final moves of his legacy. Do I think that this is the final move? No, I don't. I think that was the tip of the iceberg in the effort to keep the search engines being Disney as Epic Universe opens. I don't think that that's the only park announcement. No. I think we got another one coming. I heard a really good theory. Actually, I think it was when we were with Mike and Nicole. I think Mike said it, so I can't take credit for this. That perhaps Villains Land is not the land, but maybe that was testing the water for what the fifth gate is going to be, and they gave us a little tease, but that might be the whole enchilada, which would be really cool. But especially with the way that that Abu Dhabi was met with so much backlash, I'm hoping that that's not the only announcement. I think there's got to be something else in the pipeline that's going to put a positive spin back on this.
Yeah, I don't blame Disney for making the decision that they made to do this park. From a business perspective and Iger's perspective, you know what? Yeah, you can't say no, especially because the Disney stock has been in the tank since the pandemic. And part of that is based on decisions that they made domestically. But this is going to help fuel the fire. It's going to help rehab and even grow. And let's be real, folks. Most of his retirement, I'm sure, is in shares of the company. That's how a lot of these CEOs make their money. It's in shares of the company, so it's self-serving. He's going to make sure that those shares are driven up so that when he cashes them in as a billionaire, because that's what they will be, he'll walk away filthy, stinking rich. And then he will be able to sit there and say, I opened 2 parks.
Yeah.
I expanded global reach. But none of that Abu Dhabi stuff is going to slow down Epic Universe, because it doesn't affect travel here. These people, United Emirates, are so filthy, disgustingly rich. This is not like going to Disneyland Paris. It's not even as accessible as going to Disneyland Tokyo or Shanghai Disney. This is something completely different. And I will remind people that there is still an archway standing in Dubai that says Universal Studios Dubai Land. Mm-hmm. And it's been sitting there for 15 years. And that park is never going to open. Am I saying that's going to happen with Disney? No. Am I saying there's room for things to change? Sure. There sure is. I think the park's going to be absolutely stunning, but it's certainly not one that I think we will ever be able to afford to go to. And I think that's why.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like to be a part of the rumor mill, but I'm going to be a part of the rumor mill. They want to squash Epic Universe. They're going to have to announce a 5th park. I think we haven't opened a park here in close to 30 years. It's time for a 5th gate, and I think we're going to get one.
Yeah, Animal Kingdom was the last one.
And that was,
98? 8. It just celebrated the anniversary.
Yeah.
But, yeah, to that point, and you and I have been very vocal about it on the show before, is that since we've been vacationing here regularly and now obviously living here, we've seen so many hotel expansions, so many towers pop up, so many rooms added and renovated, but the footprint stays the same. And that's where people are very upset about things like, Monsters, Inc. taking over Muppets. It's because you have the footprint, you're just not expanding upon it, which is also what leads me to believe maybe there is a 5th gate on the way, because how could you do that to Muppets and take away when you knew everybody was going to be up in arms about it, and knowing that you have the room for expansion? Why not just save Monsters, Inc.? But I think, all of the roads are pointing to a 5th gate. But we're going to see, and I think we're going to see sooner rather than later. And if that's the case, then that's very exciting. And hopefully people will feel a little bit better about this Abu Dhabi announcement if we are getting something else here. Because I do understand, too, from the perspective of the Disney historians and the Disney files and people that have been lifelong fans that want to do all 12 parks, this is either for financial reasons or for safety reasons. This is unreachable. Yeah. So now that goal is taken away from me. And I do very much understand why people are so upset from that perspective of now I can't go to every single park. So I think they really need to do something to soften the blow PR-wise here.
Well, I think especially for the cast members.
Also that,
I think that you have a lot of cast members that are a part of a community that cannot be welcome in some of, the countries out in the Middle East. And I think that you kind of need to answer to that. You make sure that you're inclusive here at Walt Disney World. You host Pride Days at Walt Disney World.
A month-long celebration.
So, whether it be the guests that you are being inclusive towards or the staff, who is the backbone of the experience at Walt Disney World, they had to have had these internal conversations of what it means, but I do think that perhaps there is an explanation that is owed to those that work in the company that is supposed to support them no matter what.
Absolutely, and that's exactly it. That's the backlash. You knew and you did it anyway.
Correct.
And that's the part that I absolutely don't agree with.
Right. But with all of that being said, you could tell that it's still somewhat tourist season here because it sprinkled rain for about 5 minutes. It actually made it very pleasant, and everybody's gone. Yeah. Everybody ran away. So it's comfortable again. Right as we finish up our conversation. Why couldn't it have done this at the start of the conversation? But that's okay. We have a prize to give away. Of course, we've got a straw charm to give away from our dear friends over at the Hidden Mickey Supply Co. And we are going to give that straw charm because I have Shula's on my mind. Not just the restaurant, but the man.
I have Shula's on my stomach.
And when I think about Don Shula as a coach, when I think about the preparation on the meal we had tonight, the one word that describes both of them, perfect. So the first person to email or DM us perfect, I'll take perfection as well, either perfect or perfection. The first person to DM us or email us that word will win a straw charm courtesy of our dear friends over at Hidden Mickey Supply Co. Thank you all so much for joining us this and every week on Monoreel Radio. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and rate us on your podcast platform of choice. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media at Monoreel Radio, and to links to everything, whether it be the vacation planning with Jackie or perhaps links to the social media or to join our email newsletter. All of that can be found at monoreelradio.com. For Jackie, I'm Sean. Have a magical week, everyone.